So my name is JP Kenny, and as Rob mentioned, I'm the Chief Revenue Officer for IntelliSite. And first I want to thank the City of Raleigh and certainly Rob and Kevin and Dell for allowing us to have 10 to 15 minutes to spend with you at the end of their keynote. So I'm fairly fortunate, where Rob mentioned that he wondered why people are moving to Raleigh. I moved to Raleigh about 30 years ago from Texas. And actually, I went to Texas A&M, and I know Sindhu came from College Station recently, so I'll look forward to talking with you about College Station. But 30 years ago, I came here, and I've been fortunate to live in Raleigh, Cary, and Charlotte in that time frame. And I love this community. I love the concept of the communities as well, just simply because the connected communities is really, I think, what has drawn me, and certainly my wife being from the eastern part of the state, to stay here and raise our family here. And I don't ever see leaving here, to be completely honest with you, as I also believe that it's clear that North Carolina is a leader in technology and will continue to be. So I'm going to touch on a few statistics just to back up some of what Rob talked about. So 75% of all data will be over IoT or some type of IoT by 2025. 70% of all organizations will have some type of an IoT use case by 2023. If you think about that, that's like a year away. We're only a couple of weeks away from 2022. And today, there's already 775 million cameras in the market. So basically, your data tells a story. But I would venture to say your data can tell a story. And the only way your data can tell a story is if it's enriched and it's valuable. So I'm going to talk a little bit about that. And I'll talk very little about technology. As Tom and Rob both mentioned, it's really not about technology. It's about the outcomes. And IntelliSite is an outcome-based organization. It's a 20-year-old company that was machine-to-machine and computer vision-based. And in the last few years, there's been a significant amount of investment injected in the analytics component, which is deep insights, the core of what I would call the circle of value of your data. Everybody's heard of the circle of life, right? What I'm going to talk a little bit about is the circle of value of your data. The first thing you have to have in order to leverage data is connectivity. And Rob talked a little bit about connectivity, whatever type of connectivity it is, 5G, LTE, but you have to be able to access the data. And at a point where you access the data, then you ingest the data into some type of a device, whether it's an edge or the cloud. And once the data is ingested, you then have to enrich the data. When you enrich the data, that's when you begin to see value in that data. You run this deep insights analytic engine an algorithm on the data, and it creates insights. And the insights, as Rob talked about, that's when you start to learn things that you didn't already know. For instance, when a vehicle almost strikes a pedestrian, or it does strike a pedestrian, unfortunately, or if the air quality isn't up to snuff, or as Rob mentioned, jaywalking is taking place. And we'll talk a little bit about that in some of the use cases that we're discovering and piloting with Raleigh. And the last thing is, obviously, it's all about the outcome. And that's the reason that you employ these solutions, is so that you can drive the outcome of a safe, secure, and more connected community. So, as I mentioned, I'm not going to talk a lot about technology, but if you look at the different pillars that exist, the one thing about IntelliSite is we have a fully comprehensive, integrated, and managed solution. And in a lot of scenarios of all these different pillars, you typically have to go to 3 or 4 different companies to be able to build out a solution like this. But IntelliSite, again, over the last 20 years, has developed a solution that's completely encompassed and can provide the C all the way to the O. And what I didn't talk about a minute ago, and I meant to, let me go back for just a second, is this discussion, this circle of value for data, kind of came from a discussion with my chief digital officer about a year ago when I joined IntelliSite. I asked him to simplify the message for me a little bit. And when he talked about the connectivity, the ingestion, the enrichment, and then the insights and outcomes, we were laughing a little bit about, the old McDonald had a farm, E-I-E-I-O. Well, we talk about this being our CIEIO message. So it's a way that you can simplify the message and understand it's not about the technology, it's all about driving from the connectivity all the way to the outcomes. All right, so let me talk a little bit about the solutions that we're piloting with the city of Raleigh. This is our thermal solution, which allows for a connectless ability to do temperature triage. You may have seen it, the demo unit is actually sitting next to the registration. So when you register, if you look to the left, the system's there. So Raleigh is actually leveraging this thermal solution, and they're integrating with ServiceNow to allow public badged access, that when they do the temperature triage, if indeed you're over the temperature, and the temperature triage is within plus or minus 0.3 degrees. And again, you'll notice that when you come visit us at the booth. But what NOAA's doing is they've integrated it with ServiceNow so that an alert can be sent to their health and wellness group. And then that's the group that will deal with a challenge when maybe somebody has a temperature, and they can also do contact tracing to understand where that individual's been. And by doing that, they can make sure, if they need to alert others that someone who had a temperature was around them. And obviously, the other thing it can do is it can tell you if you have a mask on or not. And if you want to do it, you can actually make someone put their mask on by the unit telling you don't have a mask on, you need to put it on before you move forward. So this is one solution that we're piloting right now with the city of Raleigh, and NOAA's looking to move forward with that solution. And this is an example of the solution at work. So I'll let you just kind of look at that for a minute. So this is how it works. They come through, it looks at them, it tells them what the temperature is. And obviously, if indeed there was somebody that had a temperature, it would be red, and it would tell them what the temperature is. And then obviously you deal with that. So the other solutions that we're going to be working with Raleigh on after the first of the year are IoT solutions for intersection, for crosswalk, and also for parks. So for instance, the IntelliSite team did some extensive research around issues at specific crosswalks, intersections, and parks. And it was interesting because the one they found to have some of the most significant challenges is the one Noah walks across on his way to work every day. There were specific pedestrian injuries being struck by vehicles. And so by putting up an IoT gateway and obviously sensors, we'll be able to assess the crosswalk, jaywalking. We'll be able to do license plate recognition for hot license plates for issues that exist. And obviously we're also going to do air quality. So that's a solution that we're going to employ at the Exchange Plaza after the first of the year and pilot that. And as Rob mentioned, we'll be able to assess those ideas, collect the data, and obviously share the data in a dashboard that helps NOAA and the city of Raleigh understand, could they potentially make changes to that crosswalk to make it safer, and obviously drive into the Vision Zero. The next pilot is going to be at the intersection of Avent Ferry and Gorman. And when I moved here 30 years ago, the first house we built was at Gorman and Tryon. So I spent quite a bit of time driving through the area, really close to NC State. And this is one of the more challenging intersections in the city. There's been several fatalities. So what we'll be able to assess is obviously the traffic patterns. We'll be able to assess buses and cars and even some of the scooters, which obviously we all know can wreak havoc, and determine, are there some things that the city of Raleigh can do in order to make that a much safer intersection so they have less issues. And then the last pilot is going to be at Moore Square. So we looked at multiple different parks, and it was chosen to do, the choice was made to do the park downtown, Moore Square Park, because there are some specific issues that they've had. So we'll be able to assess park usage. As Rob mentioned, you'll be able to tell is all of a sudden there are a lot more people in the park than there should be, and especially at different times of the day. And one of the things I want to mention is, Rob mentioned, privacy obviously is very, very important. And in both the thermal solution and the IoT solutions for the intersection, the crosswalk, and the park, we can certainly leverage privacy, and we're only going to keep the alerts and incidences. We don't keep all the video, as he mentioned, which is why the video usage will be down, but it's certainly privacy is a big issue. So one other program that IntelliSite built for the city of Riverbank out in California is called the Community Engagement Program. And the reason for that was the community had some challenges with concerns around Big Brother because they were putting the IoT solutions in the parks. And so what we did was we put a QR code in the park, and then it connected to a microsite where the mayor and the city manager did a video talking specifically about the reasons for employing these solutions was for safety, not for, to watch your kids while they're playing. And so that's a program that IntelliSite is leveraging. Again, there's a video for the city of Riverbank that we can certainly share. And the last thing I'll share about a customer is I was out in California just this week visiting with the chief of police for the city of Tracy. The city of Tracy employed our solution in about 10 parks back about a year ago. And the chief shared with me that they initially had started with looking at the intersections, but instead decided to transition to parks. So they put it in 10 parks. They're now transitioning to do 25 intersections, which will go to 75 intersections over the next year. So this is the process that we've kind of seen take place is piloting in either a park, at a crosswalk, at an intersection, and then it grows from there. So with that said, I want to leave you and let you enjoy the rest of your day. I want to again thank you all for the opportunity and for coming to spend time with us. Thanks so much.